Night. The port is cold and foggy. A large cargo ship stands at anchor. It's dark and quiet. People are working near it. They're unloading containers. They do it quickly and silently. High above them, on the roof of an old warehouse, stands a man. His name is Taeyong. He is wearing a black coat. He does not move. He simply looks down. His face shows no emotion. He is watching the work. Everything is going well. Everything is going according to plan. But Taeyong senses something is wrong. He looks for one person, Seo Ho. Seo Ho is always there at times like these. He's Taeyong's right-hand man. He should be here on Earth, keeping an eye on everything. But he's not there. Taeyong stares into the fog. There's no familiar figure anywhere. It's strange. Soho is never late, never misses things like this. Taeyong stands there for another 5 minutes watching. The work below is ending. The trucks with containers are starting to leave. It's all over. And Soho still hasn't appeared. Taeyong turns and leaves. His footsteps are silent. He descends the iron stairs and disappears into the fog. One question lingers in his mind. Where is Soho? Tamira opens the door to the lighthouse diner. It's still dark. Inside, it smells of yesterday's coffee and clean floors. She turns on the light. The bulbs above the counter light up. Tamira hangs up her jacket and puts on an apron. First things first. Coffee. She pours beans into the grinder. The sound echoes loudly throughout the quiet diner. Then she starts preparing the hall for opening. She wipes down the tables, straightens the napkin holders, fills the water jugs. She does this every day. She likes this order. She likes the silence before the day begins. Tamira is 27 years old. She's been working here as a waitress for 3 years. She knows all the locals. She knows how they drink their coffee. She knows what they like to talk about. This is her place, simple and calm. She finishes getting ready and looks out the window. It's slowly getting light outside. Time to open the door. The first customers arrive half an hour later. They are 2 fishermen. They order scrambled eggs and coffee. Then an old man comes with a newspaper. Then a woman with a child. And then they come. The door opens, and 6 men enter the diner at once. They enter silently. They are wearing dark coats. They don't look around. They don't speak to each other. They simply walk to the far corner and sit down at a large table. Tamira notices them immediately, not because that they're noisy, but because they're so quiet. Normal people, when they walk into a cafe in the morning, say something, laugh, yawn. These people, nothing. They sit and remain silent. They look at the menu, but don't discuss it. Tamira takes a notepad and walks over to them. Good morning. What would you like to order? She asks. One of the men, the oldest, looks at her. 6 coffees, and 6 breakfast number 3. He speaks quietly but clearly. Tamira writes it down. It'll be ready soon, she says, and goes into the kitchen. She gives the cook her order. Then she returns to the counter and pours water into a pitcher. Her hands move as usual, but her thoughts drift to the table in the corner. Who are these people? They don't look like locals. And they're definitely not tourists. People in the city start talking. At first in whispers, then a little louder. Conversations take place in port bars, in small shops, on the streets. They're talking about one person, about Taeyong. Everyone thought he was dead. A year and a half ago, his car was found empty near a cliff. There were signs of a struggle, but no body was found. Everyone assumed he was dead. His assistant, Soho, took over his case, and now they say that Taeyong is alive, that he has been seen, that he has returned. He was at the port last night, says one man at the bar. No, he was seen on the other side of town, says another. He came back to sort things out. Someone betrayed him back then. Now he'll find the traitor. People from Taeyong's organization listen to these conversations. They exchange glances. They are nervous. They've been working in Soho for a year and a half. They've gotten used to its ways. And now they're saying the old boss is back. What should they do? Who should they listen to? One of the drivers, who worked for Taeyong for a long time, sits at a table in a cafe and smokes. He looks out the window. He remembers Taeyong, remembers his cold gaze, remembers his fairness. But he also remembers his firmness. If he's really back, the driver thinks, then discord will soon begin. Soho won't want to give up power so easily. He puts out his cigarette. He doesn't want to get involved in the squabble. But he understands that if Taeyong is back, he won't be able to stay on the sidelines. He'll have to choose a side. Soho arrives at the warehouse. It's an old building on the outskirts of the city. This is where they store their goods. Soho gets out of the car. He looks around. Then he goes inside. The warehouse is cold and empty inside. Only a lamp burns in the far corner. Taeyong stands beneath it. Soho approaches him. He tries to smile, but it comes out uneven. Everything went well, Soho says. The cargo was accepted. The money is being transferred. Taeyong looks at him, silent. I found a new supplier, Soho continues. He offers better terms, more product, cheaper. He wants to meet you. Taeyong doesn't answer. He waits. Soho gestures. A man emerges from the shadows. He's dressed in an expensive suit and has a neat beard. He approaches and extends his hand to Taeyong. My name is John. Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. Taeyong looks at the outstretched hand. Then he looks up at John. He doesn't shake his hand. He just looks. John slowly lowers his hand. The smile doesn't leave his face, but tension appears in his eyes. Soho says you're back to clean things up, John says. I can help. I have connections. I have opportunities. Why? Taeyong says for the first time. His voice is quiet and even. A mutually beneficial partnership, John quickly replies. You get a stable supply. I get access to your network. Taeyong looks at Soho. Soho looks at the floor. I'll think about it, Taeyong says. He turns and leaves, his footsteps echoing loudly in the empty warehouse. John watches him go. Then he turns to Soho. He's distrustful. He's always like this, Soho says. But he's smart. He'll figure out it's a good idea. John nods, but there's no confidence in his eyes. It's morning at the Lighthouse Diner. Tamira is delivering orders. She brings the fishermen their second coffees. She clears the old man's table. She tries not to look at the corner table. But out of the corner of her eye, she still sees them. The 6 men sit quietly. They drink coffee. Occasionally, one of them says something quietly. The others nod. They don't laugh. They don't argue. They just sit and wait for their food. Finally, the kitchen rang. The order was ready. Tamira picks up a large tray. It contains 6 plates of breakfast. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast. She carefully carries the tray to their table. Your breakfasts, please, she says, and begins to set out the plates. The men nod. No one says thank you. They immediately pick up their forks and knives and begin eating. They eat as silently as they had been sitting there. Tamira takes the tray and returns to the counter. She pours herself a glass of water. She doesn't like this table. They give off a chill. They don't look like people who just came here for breakfast. She looks at them. They are all about the same age, 30, 40. They are all dressed well, but not flashily. One has an expensive watch. Another has a scar above his eyebrow. One of them, the one sitting facing the window, pushes his plate away. He has barely eaten anything. He takes out his phone and writes something. Then he looks out the window. And at that moment, Tamira catches his gaze in the reflection in the glass. He's not looking at the street. He's looking at her. Tamiru! Their gazes meet in the glass for a second. The man immediately looks away. But that moment is enough. You. A shiver ran down Tamir's spine. That look, cold, appraising. She'd seen it somewhere. 15 minutes pass. The men finish eating. They're almost up when the doorbell rings from the kitchen. The cook, Jason, peeks out from behind the door. His face is red. He waves at Tamira. Tamira comes over. What happened? I got it wrong, Jason whispers. I gave them the wrong thing. I gave them breakfast number 4. They ordered number 3. It doesn't have sausage. It has vegetables. Tamira looks at him in surprise. But they ate everything. They didn't say anything. I know, Jason whispers. But it's my mistake. You should apologize. Tell me the bill will be lower. Tamira sighs. She doesn't want to approach them again, but she has to. She takes the bill and goes to the corner table. The men are already putting on their coats. The one who had been looking at her through the window stands with his back turned. He says something quietly to his neighbor. Sorry, Tamira says, approaching. We had a small mistake in the kitchen. They didn't quite bring you the right breakfast. We'll certainly reduce the amount on your bill. The eldest man takes the bill. He looks at the numbers. Then he looks at Tamiru. It's okay. Everything was fine. He places the money on the table. He keeps the change. Thank you, he says curtly. They turn and walk toward the exit. Tamira, relieved, takes the money and carries it to the cashier. But the man who had his back to me pauses at the counter for a second. He adjusts his glove. And at that moment, he looks up and looks at me again. Tamiru. He looks straight ahead, no longer at the reflection. His gaze is heavy and attentive. He looks at her face as if trying to remember or commit something to memory. Then he nods, once, and leaves after the others. Tamira freezes with the money in her hands. Her heart beats faster, that nod. That look, she'd definitely seen him somewhere. Not here, not at the diner, somewhere else. A long time ago. She quickly walks to the window and looks out onto the street. The men get into two black SUVs. The cars smoothly pull away from the sidewalk and disappear around the corner. And suddenly, she remembers. A year ago, maybe a year and a half, she was watching the news on TV. They were talking about some big case, about a warehouse fire, about an investigation, and they were showing photographs. Several photographs. One of them was old, black and white, from school, and the other was more recent. It showed a man in an expensive suit. He was leaving a courthouse. People surrounded him, and he looked straight into the camera, with a cold, empty gaze. The man's name was Taeyang. Everyone assumed he was dead. People talked about it for weeks, and now he was sitting in her diner, looking at her in the window's reflection, and nodding to her. Tamira slowly moves away from the window. Her hands are cold. She looks at the empty corner table. Empty cups and plates sit on it. Everything is as usual, but nothing is normal anymore. She just served a man the whole town presumes dead, and he saw her. He noticed her attention. Tamira takes a deep breath. Then she exhales. She picks up a rag and goes to clean that table. Her movements are slow, as if in a dream. She collects the dishes, wipes the table. All the time she thinks about one thing. He's back, and now she knows it. And he knows that she knows it. This is bad. This is very bad. Tamira finishes clearing the table. She puts the napkin holder back. Her gaze falls on the sofa against the wall. There's a phone lying on a dark leather pillow. It's black, with a silver frame. It's just lying there, as if it's been forgotten. Tamira comes closer. She realizes whose phone it is. It's lying exactly where the man sat, the one who was looking at her. Taeyang. She looks around. The diner is almost empty. Only a lone customer sits at the counter. Jason is rattling dishes in the kitchen. Tamira slowly picks up the phone. It's heavy, cold. The screen is dark. She doesn't know what to do. She shouldn't touch it. She needs to leave it here, or take it to Jason's lost and found. But if it's his phone, that person's, then it's dangerous. He might come back for it. He definitely will. And then he'll see her again. And he'll realize she took his thing. Or maybe she didn't. But it's better not to give him a reason to even notice her again. She puts the phone back on the couch. Let it sit there. She goes to the counter and grabs a rag to wipe down another surface. But her gaze keeps returning to the black rectangle on the couch. 10 minutes pass. 15. The phone is still in its place. No one comes to pick it up. Tamira looks at her watch. Her shift will be over soon, she thinks. If she leaves the phone here, her replacement, April, will find it. April is curious. She might try to open it, maybe call the last number, or take it to the police. And the police will start looking for the owner. And that will draw attention to the diner. If she gives the phone to Jason, the same thing will happen. Jason is honest. He'll take it to the station, but the phone's owner isn't the kind of person who wants police attention. He'll come back himself, at night maybe, or he'll send someone, and then he'll ask questions, to April or Jason, and they'll tell on her. Temiru, she was their waitress. She cleaned their table. She should have seen him. The thought of him asking Jason about her made her Tamira's stomach cramps. The best option is to return the phone herself. Now, while they haven't gone far yet, they just left. She can catch up with them on the street. Just go up to the car, knock on the window, hand over the phone, and leave, without further ado. Nothing special, just an honest waitress returning a forgotten item. And then he'll get what's his. And he won't have any questions for the diner, or for her. She makes a decision, quickly. Tamira takes off her apron and hangs it behind the counter. She tells Jason she'll step out for a minute. She grabs her jacket and her phone. The black phone burns her palm like ice. She clutches it tightly and steps outside. It's fresh and windy outside. Tamira looks back. Those cars are gone. She remembers which way they went. To the right, around the corner. She walks quickly. Her legs carry her forward. She turns the corner. There's a long street lined with shops and offices. There are no black SUVs in sight. She stops. Her heart starts pounding with frustration. Did they really leave so quickly? And then she sees them. Not on the road. In the parking lot behind the building next door. It's not even a parking lot, just an abandoned courtyard between old houses. Those two black cars are parked there. And there are people. They're not sitting in the cars. They're standing in a small group in the middle of the yard. And they're talking. With someone else. Tamira pauses around the corner of the building. She shouldn't go there. She should just call them. or wait until they get back in their cars. But something makes her stay in the shadows. She leans against the cold brick wall and peers out cautiously. The men who were in the diner are standing in a semicircle. They are looking at the man in the center. This man has his back to her. He is wearing a dark coat, not as long as the others. He is a little shorter than the others, but he holds himself upright. He is saying something, and everyone is listening to him silently, attentively. Then he slowly turns, not completely, just halfway, to look at one of his men. And Tamira sees his profile: a strong, defined chin, a straight nose, short black hair. This face, the same face from the news photo. It's a little older, a little more tired, but it's him. Taeyong, the man everyone thought was missing. He's not only alive, he's here, just steps away from her diner, and he's talking to his people. Tamira's insides turn cold. Her plan to get the phone back now seems stupid and naive. She's holding this man's thing in her hand. A man from another world. A world where people disappear and return. A world she wants to know nothing about. She needs to go. Just put the phone down and leave. Let them find it themselves. But her legs won't obey. She's rooted to the spot. She hears voices. The wind carries snatches of conversation. The voices are quiet, but discernible in the silence of the wasteland. Says the one who stood with his back to Tamira in the diner. I don't trust this. Too fast. Taeyong speaks. His voice is low and even. He already made his choice, when I was gone. Another voice, alarmed. But the deal is tonight. If he warns, Taeyong replies, his voice icy. He won't warn me. He thinks I don't know anything about the betrayal. The word betrayal hangs in the air, heavy and clear. So, are we going as planned? Someone asks. To the meeting? Taeyong says. I've been waiting for this moment, to see his face. They're talking about someone, about a traitor, about some kind of deal tonight. That's all Tamira understands, but it's too much. Too much for a random waitress who just wanted to return a forgotten phone. She feels her fingers go numb from the cold, and from fear. She takes a step back. She needs to disappear, right now. She steps back into the shadows. Her foot steps on something. A broken branch lying on the sidewalk. A soft but distinct crunch echoes through the silence. It sounds as loud as a gunshot. Everyone in the courtyard falls silent. All heads turn in her direction. Tamira freezes, pressed against the wall. But it's too late. They see her. 6 pairs of eyes and one more pair. Taeyong's pair of eyes. He turns to face her completely. Now he's looking at her, not through the window's reflection, not just glancing at her. He's looking straight ahead, across the entire expanse of the vacant lot. Complete silence falls. Even the wind seems to die down. Tamira doesn't breathe. She sees Taeyong looking at her. His gaze isn't angry, not furious. It's cold, very cold and focused. He looks at her as if he's studying her. He sees her jacket, her frightened face, her hands clasped in front of her. He sees a phone, a black phone in her white, frozen hand. His gaze lingers on the phone for a second. Then it returns to her face. That look says it all. It says, "You heard." One of his men makes a move towards her. Quick, decisive. And that's enough. Instinct kicks in faster than thought. Tamira turns sharply and runs. She doesn't look back. She just runs. Forward and forward, from this place, from these people, from this look. Behind her, she hears quick footsteps. Not one, but 2 people. They're running after her. She knows it. She hears heavy breathing and the clanking of something metallic. She runs onto the main street. There are more people here. Good. So she's not alone. She turns down the first alley, then left, then right. She doesn't know where she's going. She only knows she needs to run. Her heart is pounding somewhere in her throat. Her legs are burning. She hasn't run like this since school. But fear gives her strength. It drives her forward. She hears a shout from somewhere behind her. Stop! But she doesn't stop. She runs out onto another street and crosses it without looking at the traffic light. There's a screech of brakes. Someone yells at her from a car. She rushes past. Then more alleys. Narrow, dirty, with trash bins. She hopes they've lost her. She slows down, leans against the wall, trying to catch her breath. And again, he hears footsteps. Closer. They're still after her. She sees a sign. Laundry! The door is ajar. Tamira dives inside. It's hot and humid inside. Steamy. Washing machines rumble. No one around. Just rows of white machines and dryers. She makes her way to the farthest corner, behind a huge industrial dryer. It's dark and noisy there. She squats down, pressing her back against the hot metal. Her heart is pounding so loudly, it seems it could drown out all the cars in the world. She's shaking. Her whole body is trembling. She tries to breathe more quietly, but she can't. She sits and listens to the footsteps outside. They rush past the laundry room door. They don't come in. A minute passes. 2, 5. There were no more footsteps, only the rumble of cars and her own frantic heartbeat. Tamira exhales slowly. She clenches her fists. In one hand, she still holds the black phone. She didn't throw it away. She dragged it across the city. She looks at it. It's no longer just a forgotten object. It's a clue. It's the reason she was there, and the reason they were chasing after her. She doesn't know how much time has passed. She waits for the shaking to subside, for her breathing to even out. Then she cautiously peers out from behind the dryer. The laundry room is still empty. She goes outside. It's evening outside. It's already getting dark. She walks back to the diner. A long, roundabout way. She keeps looking back. No one is following her. She approaches the lighthouse. The lights inside are already off. Jason must have left. She walks around the building and enters through the back door. It's dark and quiet inside. It smells of detergent and fried oil. She turns on the light in the small utility room where her locker hangs. With trembling hands, she opens it and hangs up her jacket. She needs to grab her bag and go home. Just go and forget this day. But she's shaking. Her hands won't obey her. She drops the key. It clatters onto the concrete floor. She bends down to pick it up. She sees her work bag on the floor, under the coat rack. Next to it lies a black phone. She's still holding it in her hand. She can't leave it here. She can't throw it away. And she can't take it to them. She slowly picks up the key. Then she picks up her bag and her phone. She puts the phone in the farthest pocket of her jacket. Then she puts the jacket on. The heavy weight of the phone presses against her side. She turns off the light and steps outside. The evening air feels icy after the heat of the laundry room. She walks home, quickly, without looking back. In her pocket is the phone number of the man everyone thinks is dead, the man who now knows her by sight, and she heard his conversation about the deal and about the betrayal. She reaches her apartment, runs inside, locks the door with all the locks, and leans her back against it. She's home. She's safe, but there's no sense of security. There's only cold terror and a heavy weight in my jacket pocket. Tamira can't sleep. She lies in the dark and stares at the ceiling. She thinks about today, about the table in the corner, about 6 men, about his gaze in the reflection of the window. She thinks about the phone, about how she took it to return it, about the vacant lot, about how he turned and looked at her. She became a witness, an accidental, unnecessary witness. She heard words she shouldn't have heard. Deal. Betrayal. Tonight. She doesn't know the details. She doesn't know the names. She doesn't know what the deal is. But she knows it's important and dangerous. She's seen these people's faces. They're not the type to forgive bystanders. She thinks about what to do. She can keep quiet. She can throw away the phone. She can pretend nothing happened. But they saw her. Taeyang saw her. He remembered her face. He knows where she works. She could tell someone. But who? The police? They'd ask for proof, and all she had was a phone number. The phone number of someone who was officially dead. They wouldn't believe her. Or they would, but they'd start an investigation. And then everyone would know she'd come to the station. And he would know. Thoughts are spinning in circles, from fear to confusion, from confusion back to fear. She gets out of bed and goes to the window. It's quiet outside. No one is around. She looks at the pocket of her jacket hanging on the chair. There's a phone there. It lies there like a threat. She goes back to bed. She doesn't feel like sleeping, but she needs to. She has a shift tomorrow morning. She needs to go to work, to the same diner, as if nothing happened. She closes her eyes, but his cold, assessing gaze remains before her. In the morning, Tamira wakes up to the bright sun. She hadn't slept well. Her head is heavy. She gets up and gets ready for work. She puts on jeans and a sweater. She goes to the door to put on her shoes, and freezes. On the floor, right at the threshold of her apartment, lies a glove. A black leather glove. A man's. Tamira leans down slowly. She doesn't touch her. She just looks. The glove lies neatly, with its fingers pointing toward the apartment. It's not lying around. It was put there. Tamira's heart starts beating faster. She remembers yesterday. The men in dark coats. They were wearing gloves. Someone was here. At her door. At night or early in the morning. She carefully opens the door and looks out onto the landing. No one. Silence. She looks at the glove. It's not a coincidence. It's a message. It says, "We know where you live. We can come anytime." She feels a coldness in her stomach. She wants to cry from fear and anger. She did nothing. She just worked. And now there's a black glove lying under her door. She picks up a piece of paper from the table, uses it to slip her glove off, and carries it into the kitchen. She throws it in the trash. Then she looks at the trash. It doesn't take away the fear. The fear is now inside. Tamira is nervous all day at work. She drops a plate. She mixes up orders. She keeps looking at the door, waiting for it to open and for them to come in. But no one comes. Everything is as usual. Fishermen, drivers, old people. But she can't live like this. With a glove at the door. With fear. After her shift, she doesn't go home. She stands at the diner's exit and thinks. She has two options. The first is to remain silent. Wait to see what happens. Maybe they'll leave her alone. Maybe they won't. The second is to go to the police. Tell them everything. Let them sort it out. She didn't do anything illegal. She's a witness. She remembers the black glove. No, they won't leave her alone. They've already made that clear. They want her to remain silent. And if she remains silent, they'll think she's afraid. And then they might come again. With a different sign. Or no sign at all. She makes a choice. Quickly, before she changes her mind. She turns and walks towards the police station. Her steps are firm. She wants to feel safe. And safety is only there now. The site is located in an old brick building. The interior smells of dust and coffee. There's an officer sitting behind the counter. He's middle-aged, with a tired face. He's typing something on his computer. Tamira approaches him. "Hello, I want to tell you something important." The officer looks up at her. "What happened?" Tamira begins to tell her story. She speaks quickly, haltingly, about the 6 men in the diner, about the forgotten phone, about how she went to return it, about what she saw in the vacant lot, about the man presumed dead, about the words deal and betrayal, about the chase, about the black glove by the door. The officer listens to her. At first, he looks at her intently, then his gaze becomes distracted. He glances at the computer screen, then back at her. When she finishes, he sighs. "You said the man's name was Taeyang," he asks. "Yes. Everyone thinks he's dead." The officer nods. He's searching for something on the computer. "We have no information that he's alive. His case is closed. Fatal incident." "But I saw him. He's standing there and talking." "You could have made a mistake," the officer says calmly. "Stress, fear. People often confuse faces." "And as for the glove, are you sure it's not yours? Or your neighbor's?" Tamira looks at him with disbelief. "You don't believe me." "I believe you saw something," the officer says. "But without proof. You said you had a phone?" Tamira remembers the phone. It's in her bag. She could give it to him, but she doesn't want to. It's her only proof. And if she gives it to him, the police might not do anything. And he'll find out she gave the phone to the police, and then… "No," she says quietly. "I didn't take it. I got scared and left it in the vacant lot." The officer throws up his hands. "You see? There's no phone, no witnesses except you. No one attacked you. No one made any direct threats. It was just a glove. We can't open an investigation on that basis." "What should I do?" Tamira asks, her voice shaking. "Be careful," the officer says, already looking at the screen. "If anything happens, call, immediately." He's clearly finished talking. Tamira stands there for another minute. Then she realizes she won't get anywhere else. She turns and leaves. The sun is shining outside, but she's not warm. She feels stupid and alone. She came for help, but they didn't believe her. Her story struck the officer as either a fabrication or hysteria, so she's left alone, with a phone in her bag, with a threat at the door, and with knowledge no one needs. She doesn't want to go home. She goes to a small park near her house. She sits on a bench. She looks at the children on the playground, at the mothers with strollers. Everything is normal here, calm. There are no black gloves or cold stares here. She sits like that for about 20 minutes. Then she notices a man. He's walking down the path straight toward her. He's wearing a regular jacket and jeans. He doesn't look like those people, but there's something familiar in his movements, purposeful. He walks over to her bench and sits down at the other end. He doesn't look at her. He just sits. Tamira wants to get up and leave, but something holds her back. The man searches for something in his pocket. Then he drops a folded piece of paper onto the bench between them. He does it without looking, as if by accident. Then he gets up and leaves, quickly, without looking back. Tamira looks at the piece of paper. It's lying on the gray wooden bench, a white square. She takes it slowly and unfolds it. On the paper is one word, printed in large black letters. Be silent. Tamira freezes, the paper trembling in her fingers. So they were watching her. They saw her leave the station. They know what she was trying to tell. And now they're giving her a final warning. She crumples the paper and squeezes it in her fist. She looks around. The man has already disappeared. The park is still quiet. The children are laughing. But for her, this park has now become a dangerous place too. She gets up and practically runs home. The next day, Tamira goes to work again. She doesn't want to, but she has no choice. She needs money. She needs to live. She tries not to think about yesterday. She tries to just work, smile at customers, deliver orders. The day passes tensely, but nothing happens. No one comes. No one looks at her strangely. As evening approaches, the room almost empties. Only a couple remains at a table by the window. Tamira is wiping down the counter, preparing to close. The door opens. He enters. He's alone. Taeyong. He's wearing a dark sweater and a black coat. He looks like an ordinary person, but his appearance fills the room with silence. Even the customers by the window fall silent. He doesn't look back. He walks straight to the table in the corner, the same one he sat at that time. He sits down. He looks at the empty space in front of him. Tamira freezes, rag in hand. Her heart skips a beat. He's here, at her table, alone. She knows she has to come over. It's her job. She's a waitress. He's a customer. But her feet seem to be rooted to the floor. He looks up and at her, calmly. Waiting, Tamira takes a deep breath, puts down the rag, picks up the notebook, and walks over to his table. Every step is difficult for her. She approaches. Good evening. What would you like to order? She says. Her voice is even, and she's surprised by it. Taeyong looks at her, not at the menu, at her. His gaze is still cold and searching. Coffee, black, he says quietly. Tamira nods and goes behind the counter. Her hands shake slightly as she sets down the cup and pours the coffee. She carries it back and places it on the table in front of Taeyong. Anything else? She asks, looking slightly away from his face. Sit down, he says quietly. Not an order, but a statement. His voice is calm, even. Tamira hesitates, but this is her workplace. To refuse would be to show fear. She slowly sits down in the chair opposite him. Taeyong looks at his coffee. He doesn't drink it. Telephone, he says. It's not a question. It's a fact. She didn't say it was forgotten. So, it's with her. I have him, Tamira admits. There's no point in lying. Give him back, he says. Again, simply. No threats in his voice. Tamira is silent. You heard the conversation, he continues. Now that's a fact, too. I didn't understand anything, Tamira says quickly. You understand enough, he retorts. He looks up and straight at her. Forget it. Forget the face. Forget the words. Forget you ever saw me. Live your life. Work here. And everything will be fine. There's no anger in his voice, but there's ironclad confidence. This isn't a request. It's a condition. What if I don't forget? Tamira asks, surprised at her own impudence. Taeyong pauses. He takes a spoon and slowly stirs the sugar he left out into his coffee. Then there will be trouble, he says just as quietly. Not for me. For you. The glove was the first sign. The note was the second. There will be no third. The third will be action. He says this without emotion, like a statement of the weather. This makes it even more frightening. Tamira listens to him. The fear inside her is enormous, cold. But along with the fear, something else rises. Anger, resentment, injustice. She didn't do anything. She was just doing her job. And now he sits here, calmly promising her trouble. She looks at his impassive face, at his neat hands, and suddenly her fear recedes for a second, giving way to a burning feeling. No, she says clearly. Taeyong stops stirring his coffee. He looks at her. For the first time, something other than cold assessment appears in his eyes. A slight, barely perceptible surprise. What no? He asks. I won't forget, Tamira says. Her voice grows stronger. And I'm not afraid of your gloves and notes. You want me to keep quiet? And if I don't? Will you kill me? Right here? She says this louder than she intended. The customers at the window turn around. Taeyong glances quickly, barely noticeably, in their direction, and they immediately turn away. He looks at again Tamiru. Now he studies her with new interest, as if he saw something unexpected. You're stupid, he says. but there's no insult in his tone. It's a statement of fact that surprises him. Maybe, Tamira says, standing up, but I won't be afraid just because you said so. My replacement knows you're here. The clients have seen you. You'll cause me trouble, and everyone will know. You don't want attention, so leave me alone. She stands, ready to leave. Her knees are wobbly, but she holds herself upright. Taeyong doesn't get up. He pushes his coffee cup away. He looks at her with a long, intent gaze. You don't understand, he says finally. I'm not your problem. Your problem is those who betrayed me. They know you heard. They think you might be dangerous. The glove isn't mine. Tamira freezes. She didn't expect this. What about the note? She asks incredulously. Also, he says shortly, they're watching me. And now they're watching you too. They want you to keep quiet because they're afraid you'll go to me or to the police. You've already gone to the police. He knows. Of course he knows. Tamira asks challengingly, but there is less confidence in her voice. A deal, says Taeyong. You keep quiet. You don't go to the police anymore. You don't talk to anyone about this. And I'll make sure you're not bothered. That there won't be any more gloves, so you can work and live in peace. Protection? Tamira asks again with disbelief. Call it what you will. I eliminate the threat from your side. You eliminate the threat from mine. You remain silent. Tamira slowly sits back down, her head spinning. She thought he was her enemy, and he's offering an alliance? Or a trap? Why should I believe you? She says. Because you have no choice, Taeyong answers honestly. The police won't help you. You can't leave the city. And they won't negotiate. They have a different approach. He says they. Traitors. Those he spoke to in the wasteland. Tamira is silent. She looks at his face, trying to detect a lie. But it is impassive. He is not trying to appear kind or convincing. He is simply stating the facts. Your organization is a mess, she finally says. Your own man betrayed you. How can you protect me if you can't protect yourself? Maybe they're already in control? The question hits home. For a split second, something dark flashes in Taeyong's eyes. Anger? Annoyance? But he quickly squashes it. Soho controls less than he thinks, he says coldly. And those who are with him, too. I still have people who are loyal. And I have information they don't have, including information about you. What does it mean? That means that as long as they think you're just a random waitress, you're in danger. If they decide you're on my side, you'll be in even more danger, but it'll also be harder for them to take you out. You're becoming part of the game. Tamira feels a shiver run down her spine. She doesn't want to be part of any game. She wants all of this to go away. Your protection, what does it include? She asks cautiously. Nothing special. You live your life. I make sure you're not followed, that no one comes to your door. If anything happens, you call me. He takes a simple, cheap phone out of his pocket and places it on the table. Only this number. Only in emergencies. The rest of the time, we're strangers. He looks at her again. Agree or refuse? Tamira looks at the phone on the table, then at Taeyong. She wants to scream no. Throw that phone away. Kick him out of the diner. But she remembers the black glove, the crumpled note, the tired face of the officer at the station. She is alone. Okay, she says quietly, almost in a whisper. Taeyong nods. He stands up, puts the money for the coffee on the table. Wait for my call and give me my phone back. Leave it. He thinks for a second. Under the trash can by the back door, tonight. He turns and leaves. The door closes quietly behind him. Tamira sits at a table, staring into space. She just made a deal with a man the whole town fears. What has she done? She finishes her shift in a fog. She cleans up mechanically. Jason asks if everything is okay, and she just nods. That evening, she leaves through the back door. In her hand, in a bag, lies that same black phone. She looks around. The street is empty. She quickly puts the bag under a trash can and practically runs home. The next day, she tries to live as usual, but now, every minute, she expects something. A call, a step behind her. During her lunch shift, she takes out the trash, and she sees him. Across the street, at the entrance to the store, stands Soho. He doesn't look directly at her. He pretends to talk on the phone, but his gaze slides toward the diner, toward her. Tamira freezes, holding a trash bag. Soho, Taeyong's right-hand man, the one who wasn't at the port, the traitor, according to Taeyong. He looks nervous. He keeps adjusting his collar. He looks around. His face is tense. He doesn't look like a confident man who has taken control. He looks like he's afraid. He notices her gaze. Their eyes meet for a second. There is no threat in his gaze. There is something else there. Panic? Warning? She can't tell. He turns away abruptly, ends the conversation and quickly leaves, disappearing into the crowd. Tamira stands still. Now it's not just Taeyong and his protection who are watching her. She's also being watched by the one who betrayed Taeyong. And she's the only one who knows the faces of both sides. Both sides think she knows something, perhaps even more than she actually knows. She tosses the trash bag into the bin and slowly makes her way back to the diner. Taeyong's plain old phone is in her bag in the kitchen. It feels less like a defense and more like a time bomb. Tamira can't get Soho's worried face out of her head. This man wasn't just watching, he was afraid. And if he was afraid, then the situation was worse than it seemed. She's been thinking all evening. Taeyong's phone lies in her bag like a hot stone. She'd promised herself silence, but that promise was about something she'd seen and heard before. What if she'd seen something new? Something that might be important for their deal? She waits until late evening, until the moment when the streets outside the window become empty and quiet. She picks up a simple phone. Her fingers tremble. She finds a single number in her memory and dials it. The call lasts a long time. She already thinks he won't pick up. "Speak!" His voice comes over the phone. No greeting, quiet and wary. "It's me, Tamria," she says, her voice sounding alien. "I know. What happened? I saw Soho this afternoon. He was standing in front of the diner and looking at me." There was silence on the other end of the line. "And?" Taeyong finally asks. "He didn't look right," Tamira continues quickly. "He wasn't just watching. He was nervous. Very nervous. He kept looking back, like he was waiting for someone or afraid of something. He saw me looking at him and immediately ran away. It didn't look like someone in control. It looked like a hunted man." She falls silent, catching her breath. She said it. The silence on the line stretches out again. She hears only his even breathing. "Where exactly?" he asks. She describes the place. "The store across the street." "Are you sure it was him?" His voice was more focused now. "Yes. I remembered his face from that meeting in the vacant lot. He was among the 6. "Okay," says Taeyong. Another pause. "Thanks for the information. Does this change anything?" Tamira asks cautiously. "Maybe. This confirms my thoughts. Seoho doesn't feel safe. That means his partner, John, is pressuring him, or they have a plan that's about to go off, and Seoho is afraid of failure." Taeyong's voice is calculated, analytical. "Keep watching, but be careful. If he's nervous, he might do something stupid." "What should I do?" Tamira whispers. "It's okay. Wait, and if you see him again or anything else strange happens, call me right away." He pauses. "You did the right thing by calling." The connection is lost. Tamira sits with the phone in her hand. His last words sounded almost like approval. It's a strange feeling. Approval from such a person. But it doesn't bring relief. It only emphasizes that she's now in the thick of things she doesn't fully understand. 2 days pass. Tamira lives in a constant state of anticipation. Every sound makes her flinch. Every stranger at the door seems a threat. She doesn't see Soho anymore. She doesn't see Taeyong either. The silence becomes more and more oppressive. That evening, as she washes the last of the cups, the simple phone in her jeans pocket suddenly vibrates. Once. A short message. A message from an unknown number. It contained just 2 words and an address. The address of an old industrial area. And the words, "Urgent meeting. Be careful. Soho." Tamira reads the message several times. It's not from Taeyong. It's a different number. But from whom? One of his trusted men? Someone who knows this number? Or is it a trap? She stands, staring at the screen. She needs to tell Taeyong this. But if his person wrote it, then he already knows. And if it's a trap, is this a warning for her? Or bait for him? Taeyong's number. She follows the dial tone. He doesn't pick up. She texts him. Received a message. Address. She copies the address. Signature Soho. From someone else's number. No answer. 1 minute. 2, 5. She understands. He got the same message. Most likely straight from Soho. And he's already on his way. He's going to the meeting. Because he thinks Soho wants to talk. Or give in. Or because this is a chance to draw John out. He's walking into a trap. And she knows it, but he doesn't. Thoughts are racing through my head. Tamira's running at breakneck speed. He told her to wait and call if anything happened. But he didn't pick up. That meant he couldn't. He was already busy. He was already on his way. If it's a trap, and he goes there alone, he'll be gone. And what then? John and Soho will take over everything. And what will happen to her? To her, who knows too much, and who already called him. They'll get rid of her, without any gloves or notes. Quickly and quietly, fear paralyzes her for a moment. Then it is replaced by cold, clear determination. She can't call the police. She has no evidence, just a strange text message. They won't come, or they'll come too late. But she can go herself, not interfere, just watch, make sure. And if anything happens, she can call the police from there, from the scene, or do something else. This is madness, pure madness. But she's already putting on her jacket, grabbing her bag, and heading outside. She hails a taxi and gives the address from the message. The old factory district. No one goes there for no reason in the evening. The road seems endless. She tells the driver to stop around the corner from the address, 2 blocks away. She pays and gets out. The air here smells of rust and dust. The streets are deserted. Every other street light is lit. She walks with quick, quiet steps, hugging the walls of the buildings. Here's the address. An old red brick warehouse. The windows are boarded up. Next door is a vacant lot with dry grass and a broken fence. She sees one car, a black SUV, the very same one. It's parked by the side entrance, and she sees him, Taeyong. He steps out of the shadows and approaches the warehouse door. He is alone. He glances around with a quick professional glance, but doesn't notice her, hidden around the corner of the ruined garage. He opens the door and disappears inside. Tamira's heart is pounding so hard, she thinks she can hear it all the way down the street. She's here. He's inside. And it's a trap. She's sure of it. Tamira waits, holding her breath. A minute. 2. Not a sound comes from the warehouse. The silence is the most frightening thing. She creeps closer. The side door is slightly open, a finger-width gap. She approaches cautiously and peers inside. The warehouse is dimly lit. Only a few portable lamps glow somewhere in the center of the vast space, littered with old crates and rusty iron. There are 3 figures standing under the lamps. Taeyong. He stands facing her, but he can't see her in the darkness. He stands calmly, his hands at his sides. In front of him is Soho. And one more person, John. He is dressed in a light coat that gleams bright white in the beam of light. Soho says something, gesturing. He looks even more nervous than he did outside. He explains something, his voice trembling. Taeyong is silent. He just listens. Then John joins the conversation. His voice echoes through the warehouse vaults. Smooth, confident. Everything's already been decided, Taeyong. A year and a half is enough time. The business has grown. It requires a different approach. Management, not makeshift methods. Taeyong finally answers, his voice quiet but clear. So you're the new manager, John? And Soho? Is he your assistant? Soho realized where the future was, John says. He made the right choice. Unlike you. You should have disappeared forever. I'll disappear, Taeyong says, and you'll be left with what's left of the case. With the rubble, John laughs, dryly without humor. You don't understand. We have everything. Contacts, schemes, people. Those who were loyal to you are either with us or with no one else. You are a ghost, and today your ghostly journey ends. Here, quietly, without witnesses. Soho mumbles something, looking at the floor. John gives him an irritated look. Taeyong slowly looks around. He sees shadows behind the piles of junk. There are more of them, not just these 3. Taeyong repeats, and for the first time, there's something other than cold in his voice. A hint of disdain. Are you sure? He takes a barely perceptible step to the side, changing the angle, and his gaze slides straight to the crack in the door, to the place where Tamira is hiding in the darkness. He doesn't look directly at her, but this movement is no accident. He knows she's there. Did he feel it? Heard it? Or was he just hoping? And at that moment, Tamira realizes she's the very witness John said shouldn't be here. And if she runs away now, they'll kill Taeyong and leave. And tomorrow or the day after, they'll come for her. And if she stays, what can she do? Alone, against them all? John follows Taeyong's gaze, squinting into the darkness by the door. What's there? He asks sharply. Everyone freezes. Even Soho looks up. Tamira jumps back from the door, pressing her back against the cold brick outside. Her breath catches. They're coming out now. They'll find her. She has a phone in her pocket. Taeyong's phone. And her own. She needs to run. Now, while there is still time. But her legs don't move. John's voice sounds in her head. You are a ghost. And today your ghostly journey ends. She clutches the phone in her pocket. Her fingers fumble for the buttons. She can't see the screen. She just pokes, hoping to hit the right key. The screen lights up in her pocket, illuminating the fabric from within. She manages to see that she's dialed 102. Emergency call code. She presses the call button, and immediately, without waiting for a response, she throws the phone with all her might across the vacant lot, in the direction away from her hiding place. The phone falls into the dry grass and scrap metal with a dull thud. But the thud is enough. A sharp cry comes from inside the warehouse. "Outside! There's someone!" The next second, the door swings open, and one of John's men, the one hiding in the shadows, bursts out. He looks around, and his gaze falls on the phone screen glowing in the grass. "There!" he shouts, pointing away from Tamir's. This is her chance. Everyone's looking in the wrong direction. They think the witness is where the phone went. She crawls deeper into the shadows, gets to her feet, and runs, without looking back, into the night, away from the warehouse where someone else's fate, and her own, is being decided. Tamira doesn't see what happens inside the warehouse after she's thrown. She only hears screams and the clatter of feet outside. She runs, weaving between the dark masses of abandoned workshops, her lungs burning from the cold air. She doesn't think about what she's done. There's no time to think. She just runs. Inside the warehouse, everything is changing in these seconds. Taeyong's gaze, which a second ago had been staring into space, was now clear and focused. He saw a shadow flicker by the door. He wasn't sure who it was, but now he knows. The noise outside is a distraction, an opportunity, that 1 second to cling to in the fight. Man, who had rushed out, left the door open. The second guard, hiding in the back, was momentarily distracted by the flash of light outside. Taeyong moves. He doesn't attack John or Soho. He abruptly retreats back, into the shadows, behind a pile of metal drums. His movement is lightning fast and unexpected. "Stop him!" John shouts. But it's too late. Taeyong disappears from the circle of light. The warehouse is vast and full of hiding places. He's no longer a target in the center. He's a hunter in the darkness, and they're the confused target. Soho is thrashing around. "Who's there? What was that?" "Shut up!" John hisses, snatching a short object from under his coat. He orders the remaining guard. "Find him!" The guard steps hesitantly into the darkness, aiming his flashlight. The beam picks out rusty machines, piles of rags. No one is around. And outside, his partner returns, out of breath. "The phone! Someone threw away the phone! Nobody's here!" John understands. His face contorts with anger. "The girl! The waitress! She's here!" Just then, a piece of rusty pipe flies out of the darkness, sideways. It hits the guard's hand with a clang. He screams, and the flashlight falls out and goes out, rolling across the concrete. Now the only light in the warehouse comes from 2 portable lamps in the center. The circle of light has become smaller, and the darkness around is thicker and more vibrant. "Taeyong, come out! Let's talk like men!" John shouts, but there's tension in his voice. He's losing control. Taeyong's voice comes from the darkness, calm even. It comes from all directions at once, bouncing off the metal. "You wanted to talk about management, John. Go ahead, but speak louder. Your people waiting outside by the cars. They won't hear you anymore." John freezes. He looks at Soho. Soho is as white as a sheet. He understood too. Taeyong didn't come alone. He brought his own. And while John and Soho were preparing a trap inside, their own quiet work was going on outside. "You're lying," John says, but no longer with conviction. A muffled cry comes from the darkness, followed by the dull thud of a body hitting concrete. It's a sound coming from outside, at the side entrance. Then another. Silence. A silhouette appears in the doorway. Not Taeyong. Someone else. Young, strong. He nods into the darkness. "Clear!" Taeyong steps out of the shadows onto the edge of the light. There's not a hint of sweat on him. He looks at John and Soho. Now there are 2 of them in the light, and around them, in the darkness, are his people. "Management," Taeyong says quietly. "It's about you being in control of the situation. It's not about the situation controlling you." Soho falls to her knees. "Taeyong, I'm sorry. He threatened." John looks at Soho with disdain, then at Taeyong. "So what now?" "Now you're both going to disappear," Taeyong says. "This time for real. For good. Your schemes, your contacts. No one needs them. Everything you've built over the past 1.5 years is a house of cards. It's already collapsed." He gives a slight nod to the people in the dark. People approach John and Soho. "It's all over." Tamira reached the illuminated street and only then stopped, leaning against the wall to catch her breath. She didn't know what had happened. She only knew she had escaped. She walked slowly home, covered in mud, with scraped knees, shaking. She entered her apartment, locked all the doors, and sat down on the floor in the hallway. Only then did it hit her. She began to cry, quietly, silently, from fear, from tension, from the realization that she could have just died. The night passed. The morning passed. She didn't go to work, calling in sick. She sat at home, listening to every sound, waiting for a knock on the door, waiting for someone to come, but no one came. On the evening of the second day, there was a knock on her door, quietly, but insistently. Her heart sank. She walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It wasn't Soho or John standing behind the door. It was Taeyong, alone. He was wearing a regular jacket. He was looking straight through the peephole, as if he knew she was there. She hesitated for a long time before opening the door, but he simply stood there and waited. She slowly pulled back the bolt and opened the door, leaving the chain in place. They looked at each other through the crack. "It's over," he said first. His voice was tired but calm. Tamira remained silent. "Soho and John are no longer a problem. They're gone. No one will come to you with gloves or notes." She nodded, unsure of what to say. "And you?" "I have regained control. What needs to be reorganized will be reorganized. The rest will disappear." He paused. "I came to say thank you, for the phone, for the noise. You gave me time. You changed everything." "I was just scared," Tamira said honestly. "That's a reasonable reaction," he said. "But you didn't just run away. You thought, and you acted." He looked at her through the crack. "You're brave. Stupid, but brave." It was almost like being in a diner, but now there was no cold judgment in his words. There was something like respect. "What now?" she asked. "You're free now," he said. "Our deal is complete. You can forget about everything. Go back to your life. I'll make sure no one bothers you. Ever." She looked at him, at his tired but calm face, at the man who had been a ghost to her, a threat, and then an unwitting ally. "And you?" she asked again. He smiled slightly. It was strange to see that expression on his face. "Me? I'll clean up. My world. And maybe make it a little smaller, quieter." He paused. "I'm leaving. Forever. From this city, from this life. There's nothing more for me here." These words came unexpectedly. "Where to?" He shrugged. "I don't know yet. Somewhere where no one knows me. Where I can start with a clean slate, if that's possible." He looked at her one last time. "Take care, Tamira." He turned to leave. "Wait," she said suddenly. He stopped. She closed the door, clicked it shut, unhooked the chain, and opened it again. Now she stood at full height on the threshold of her apartment, face to face with him in the empty hallway. "Your phone," she said. "The old one. I didn't throw it away. I have it. Do you want it back?" He looked at her, and something flickered in his eyes. Not surprise, something more complex. "Why?" "I don't know. As a souvenir?" She tried to smile, but it came out unevenly. "Or to leave no trace." He shook his head slowly. "Keep it, or throw it away. It doesn't matter now." They stood in the silence of the corridor. Something unspoken hung between them, the shadow of what they had been through together. Fear, risk, reluctant trust. "Taeyong," she said quietly, what if I don't want to forget?" He froze. His gaze became intense, searching. "It's dangerous. For you. I know. There is nothing good in my world." "I've seen that before," she said. "And I've seen something else. A man who keeps his word, who protects whoever he makes a deal with, even if it's just a waitress." He looked at her for a long time, at her determined, tired face, at her eyes, which still held fear, but which were already revealing a new firmness. "My life isn't the lighthouse diner," he finally said. "It's not morning coffee and familiar customers. It's shadows. It's silence. It's constant caution." "I learned caution," she replied, "and silence, and to look into the shadows to see what's there." He didn't answer, he simply looked, and for the first time, his gaze wasn't cold or judgmental. He was human, tired, lonely, unsure of what to do next. "I'm leaving in 3 days," he said finally, very quietly. "Train. At 10 in the morning. If you change your mind, don't come. Better to forget it." "It's better that way." He turned and walked toward the stairs. This time he didn't look back. Tamira closed the door and leaned against it. Her heart was pounding. She had just offered something impossible. And he He hadn't refused. He had given her a choice. 3 days, 10 in the morning. She looked at her small, safe, familiar apartment, at the photographs on the shelf, at the apron hanging on a hook by the door. All this was her life. Simple, understandable, predictable. And there, behind the door, in the morning fog near the station, stood a man from another world, a world of shadows and silence. A man whose life would never be simple and safe, but a man who kept his word. She didn't know what she would do. She had 3 days to decide, 3 days to choose between the life she knew and an unknown future with the man everyone thought dead, who now offered her a chance to start over together. She walked to the window and looked out at the evening city. Somewhere in it, he was. And their stories, so incredibly intertwined, were now linked not by fear and threat, but by something fragile and new, something that could shatter with one false step, or it could become the beginning of something completely different. For both of them, everything changed forever. They dragged on painfully slowly and flew by too quickly. Every morning, Tamira woke up with one question: will I go? By evening, the answer had changed. She went to work. She smiled at customers. She served breakfast, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She looked at the empty corner table and saw more than just furniture. She saw the point where it all began. Jason asked if she was still sick. She waved him off. She pulled that same black phone out of her bag. It was off. She hadn't turned it on. It lay on the table like an artifact linking two worlds, her old simple world and the new shadow-filled one. She thought about his words. There's nothing good in my world. He wasn't lying. She saw it. Stress, danger, betrayal, endless caution. But she also saw something else. Clarity, resolve, honor within the strange, twisted confines of that world. He could have eliminated her at their first meeting, so as not to leave a witness. But he didn't. He offered a deal. And when the time came, he protected her by removing the real threat. He kept his word. She didn't sleep that last evening. She packed a small backpack, a few changes of clothes, documents, some money, a black phone. She looked at the backpack standing by the door. It seemed so small and insignificant for a decision that would change her whole life. The fear was immense, icy. Fear of the unknown. Fear of making a mistake from which there would be no return. But there was another fear too. Fear of being left behind. Fear of waking up every morning and looking at that corner table, knowing she'd chosen safety, but given up something real forever. A challenge. A man who saw her as more than just a waitress, but an ally, and perhaps something more. She remembered his gaze in the hallway. Tired, human. There was no appeal or request in it, only a statement of fact, and a quiet, almost imperceptible hope that he himself probably denied. She rose at dawn the next morning. She put on a warm jacket. She looked at her apartment one last time. She didn't cry. She felt a strange, icy calm. The decision had been made. Now all that remained was to act. The station was noisy and crowded. She bought a cup of coffee at a kiosk and stepped aside, leaning against a column. Her eyes searched for him in the crowd. She saw him 10 minutes before departure. He was standing at the far exit to the platform, his back to the wall. He was wearing a simple dark down jacket and a cap pulled down over his eyes. He wasn't looking at his watch, but at the people entering. His gaze swept over their faces, quick and professional. He noticed her when she took a few steps toward him. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He simply stopped looking around and fixed his gaze on her. Tamira approached. There was a distance of a meter between them. The noise of the station seemed muffled. "I haven't changed my mind," she said, her voice unwavering. He looked at her small backpack. Then he looked up at her face. "Are you sure? Last chance to turn back. Take the train back." "I know," she said. He nodded silently. There were 5 minutes left before departure. "My carriage is at the end. There's already a seat for you. We're going south, then we'll cross the border. We'll change cities. Often. We won't stay anywhere for long." It sounded like a warning. A test. "Okay," she replied. He took her backpack, his movements natural, as if this was how it should be. "Let's go." He turned and walked along the platform toward the rear of the train. She walked alongside him. She didn't look back at the city behind her. She looked ahead, at his straight back, at the gray carriage ahead. He helped her up the steps. The compartment was empty. 2 berths by the window. He placed her backpack on the top bunk. The final whistle sounded. The train pulled away smoothly. The cityscapes outside the window began to float by, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Taeyong sat by the window. Tamira sat opposite him. They watched in silence as the familiar streets and rooftops disappeared, then the industrial zone, and finally the fields opened up. He was the first to break the silence, his gaze fixed on the window. "Thank you," he said very quietly, almost in a whisper, "for coming." She didn't answer. She simply looked at him, at his profile against the trees flashing past the window. He was no longer a ghost or a threat. He was simply a man, with a difficult past and an uncertain future. A man with whom she had now tied her life. The train picked up speed, carrying them away from everything old. They both looked out the window, each in their own way, bidding farewell to the past. Nothing was guaranteed. No safety, no happiness, not even tomorrow. But there was a beginning. A new, fragile, frightening beginning. And they were in it together.